Hey, here we are on day 162 of Route 66. Glad you've joined me here on this little video, and hopefully this has helped you as you've moved along just a few chapters at a time. We have 4 chapters in Job today. Job chapter 35, 36, 37, and 38. Elihu, this young man that kind of pops up on the scene, he's still sharing some things. So let me give you a little bit of summary of the chapters that you're going to read. In chapter 36, he questions Job and Job's complaints. Job said that it's not worth living righteous if bad things happen to you. And Elihu reminds Job that God is not diminished by our sin, and he's not made any better because of our righteousness. God always hears the cries of the oppressed, but often doesn't respond. And so we need to be careful of that. In chapter 36, he exalts God. He Elihu continues to talk about how mighty and powerful and just and good God is, no matter what happens to us down here. He explains that sometimes God uses suffering to teach us and to rescue us and not just to punish us. And he urges Job to just to consider God's greatness and not turn to do the wrong thing, which he hasn't done. Chapter 37, Elihu declares God's majesty in the nature that are around. I honestly think that as Elihu is finishing his speech, God is coming on the scene because he talks about God's creation in the storms and the thunder and the lightning and the snow even. And he calls Job just to stand in awe of God, realizing that God is beyond our human understanding. And this sets the stage for chapter 38 when God arrives. God answers in a storm. He speaks directly to Job out of a whirlwind. I'm sure it's some kind of wind, maybe tornado, I don't know. But instead of explaining Job's suffering, God asks a bunch of questions, questions that Job has no answer. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the world? And where was he? He was nowhere, but God was there. And God emphasizes his wisdom, his power, his control over everything, revealing that Job has limited understanding. So some lessons that we can learn from this, and this is good. Suffering can be a tool for growth, not just the consequences of sin. Sometimes good people go through bad things, and it can teach us, it can refine us, it can restore us, it can help us. It shifts us into a better place. So sometimes God uses that. Now he reminds Job about that. And also realize this, another lesson, God is greater than our comprehension, and that's good. We, we will not understand completely God. We can begin to understand a little bit, but God doesn't offer us and really have to give us an explanation. And he reminds Job who he is. And sometimes peace comes not from getting an answer, but just saying, God's got it all under control. I don't have anything to worry about. But then a third lesson, God does respond. He may not always respond like we expect, but God will always respond in power and in truth and in justice and in righteousness. God sometimes may seem silent. God sometimes may seem slow, but he speaks when he's ready and he does it perfectly. And God is on the scene. And we're going to talk a little bit more tomorrow about God's continuing conversation with Job.